going to explain what the writing process is. And basically, the writing process is what a writer goes through when writing a research paper. And there are five basic stages that the writer moves through while composing their paper. The first is the invent stage. So this is where the writer is brainstorming ideas. They're maybe looking at the prompt that the teacher gave them and saying, how am I going to respond to this? They may even be asked to take a position on an issue. So usually in this invent stage, what the writer is focused on doing is creating a working thesis statement to help guide the rest of this process. So the next stage after invent is research. And this is just like it sounds. The writer's going to go out and find information that's going to support the point that they want to make in their paper or support the position that they're going to be arguing for. After the research stage is the outline stage. And part of this stage is reading all of the sources that they found when doing their research, taking really good notes, and figuring out how to organize all of that information in a way that will make sense for their reader and in a way that will help them construct a logical argument. So after the outline stage, this is actually when the writer writes and produces the paper. That's when they sit down and compose. The last stage is what we call polish. This is basically where the writer rereads the paper, revises it, checks for citation errors, grammar, punctuation, all of that. It's largely the proofreading stage. Now, the one thing to know about the writing process is while we talk about 5 different stages, a writer isn't always going to clearly move from one to the next to the next. Sometimes things get a little messy and a writer may be stuck in multiple stages or doing multiple stages at the same time. All right, so this process is rarely linear or easily segmented. So take, for example, let's say after doing research, maybe the writer discovers, I don't like this topic. I want to do a different topic. They're going to then go back to the invent stage. Or maybe in the middle of drafting and producing their paper, they realize, oh, I didn't get enough research on this one area for my paper. I need to go back and find more sources. Or maybe in the middle of proofreading their paper, they realize, oh, this organization that I thought would work, it doesn't. I need to kind of go back and rethink the outline for my paper and then do some copying and pasting within the draft of my paper. So the point I want to make is that at some point in the writing process, things are going to feel confusing and chaotic, and that's completely normal. You just keep pushing through it and keep pushing through each of these 5 stages, and eventually you will finish the project and end with a good product. So if at some point you're feeling like you can't see the forest through the trees, that's completely normal, and every writer experiences that when doing research writing. So the last point I want to make about the writing process is that you have to shift your expectations of where your time is going to be. With a lot of papers you maybe wrote in English 1613 or in high school, you just sort of sat down and wrote the paper and then you were done. But with research writing, you have to do a lot of what we call pre-writing. So in this pre-writing stage, you're basically doing your invention of thinking what you're going to write about, you're doing your researching, and you're doing your outline. And this is the most time-intensive part of the research writing process, and where you may even spend half or more of your time, right? So this is what we have to account for and factor in with the time of research. The writing will actually probably take very little time in comparison to the pre-writing, and then the post-writing will take the least amount of time out of all 3 stages. So how are you going to balance all of these different stages and requirements for 2 research papers in this class? So I've created a timeline. The first research paper is due Sunday of week 3, and the second is due Sunday of week 5, so the last day of class. So how you'll manage this is in week 1, you're going to be brainstorming and inventing, coming up with that idea that you want to write on for both papers, and you have prompts in the syllabus to help you. You're going to immediately start finding sources, so 2 sources for Research Essay 1, 2 for Research Essay 5, and you're going to start reading both those sources in week 1. with the added bonus that for week 1 in the research essay, you're going to outline your paper. Now, you won't have all your sources yet for the paper, but you should create at least a working outline or kind of a guide to then help you move through what you're going to be writing in the rest of your paper. And that can actually help you with your research because it'll help you narrow down or focus and say, all right, this is where I'm going to go on my paper. Now I need to go find information to help me with that section of my paper. So then in week 2, you're going to move out of the inventing stage for both papers, and you're going to continue to find sources. You're continuing to do research. You're reading your sources, so you're continuing to work on the outline in a sense. With the addition that for the first research paper, you're going to actually start working on the draft of your paper in week 2. For week 3, you're going to put almost all of your effort into finishing the writing process for the first research essay. That means finding your remaining sources, reading them, writing the essay, and then revising it as needed. And for your second research essay, you're just going to do an outline. Use the sources you already have to help you produce the outline, and then think, what else do I need to cover in this paper? Where does my research need to go next? So at the end of week 3, you're done with at least one research paper. Whew! And then for the rest of the class, you'll focus on finishing up the second one. So for weeks 4, you're going to continue to find your sources, finish that up, begin writing the draft of your second research paper. And in week 5, you're going to mainly focus on finishing the second research paper with the last couple remaining sources, writing the essay, and then polishing the essay. So obviously, you're going to be spending a lot of time writing and working on 2 large projects. Here are 3 tips to maximize your writing productivity. 1, know when you do your best writing. Is it in the morning, the evening? Can you write in short bursts, or do you need long stretches of time? What type of environment helps you write and stimulates you? A quiet place or maybe something a little more noisy? Second, keep thinking about your paper. You cannot write anything if there's no thought behind it. So thinking always precedes writing. If you haven't thought about your paper and what you're going to do, you'll likely sit down at a blank screen and not have anything to say. So keep thinking about it. Even if you're driving to work or in the grocery store, keep your paper in your mind. And then third, stay organized. Take good notes. Make sure you keep track of where you got ideas and quotes from. Include the name of the source and the page number. There's nothing worse than finishing up a draft and not being able to find the page number of a quote that's really important to your paper. So overall, these are 3 tips to keep in mind to keep you on track and focused for the writing process. And I will continue to point you guys back to this timeline to help you stay on track.